Hello, everybody. I am Luna, and welcome to Luna and Friends, where we discuss mind, body, and spirit alignment. And every week we have a guest where we get to discuss a little bit more about their life, about their journey, what they do for the collective, and basically any way that they can help any similar outcomes to the collective as well. So just to talk a little bit about myself, I am a spiritual healer. I do tarot readings, I make candles, I have a spiritual community shop in Chicago where I sell and produce not only my products, but other small business products as well. So if anyone is interested, feel free to send me a message if you would like your product sold, or if you would like to utilize the space for any workshops, things like that. So we are going to meet our new friend, Samantha.
Hi, I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So I know we had just recently met and you're my new friend. So I would definitely like to learn a little bit more about you, and if you wouldn't mind telling us more about your story. I know we discussed a little bit about some mental health. So if you would like to talk more about that and how you began your role as a mental health practitioner.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Samantha Sears. I'm a mom of two. I've been with my partner for 10 years now. Um, and professionally, I'm working on my master's of social work with a clinical concentration at the University of Chicago Crown Family School of Social Work. In my previous lifetime, before I was a social worker, I was an educator. I had my bachelor's in secondary education with a focus on special education from Arizona State University. We ended up in Chicago, though, just by my husband getting accepted to the law school at the University of Chicago. So I did a couple years of teaching in Arizona and very quickly had to completely switch and find a new school. And I was really fortunate because as a Title I teacher, working through like a third party contractor, I just happened to be placed at a school that I absolutely loved really quickly, like fell in love with them and their mission. So I was working at San Miguel School in the back of the arts community, being a Title I teacher for sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. Loved my work, but was noticing that a lot of the students that I was working with were really affected by more systemic um, factors that I wasn't able to influence in the classroom. We're talking community violence, we're talking food deserts, we're talking, having parents that are not citizens and dealing with that kind of a legal status and the limitations that puts on a person's life as well. And so I switched from wanting to get my master's in administration to social work. And it's been a perfect fit for me. I absolutely love all the classes I've taken thus far and the work I've done. My second year in my program, I did my first internship and I was placed at Lift Chicago doing financial coaching for predominantly single mothers living on the south and west sides of Chicago. And felt like, this is kind of where I belong. This is the work that I wanted to do, really tackle those systemic challenges that are these families are dealing with. And so a lot of what I did doing like financial stability coaching was getting our members connected to resources, either like housing resources or childcare or mental health supports or kind of whatever have you. We're very member driven, so whatever our folks want to work on, whether that be financial wellness or other kind of goals, we're just supporting them along the way, no matter what they want to focus on. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the last year. And then just recently, I was offered a position full time permanently on staff there at Live Chicago. And I'm currently the program operations coordinator. And now in my new role, I'm pretty much screening all of our new members, getting them assigned with their personal coach, handling all communication there. And then on top of that, I'm helping now with the fundraising side of things to make sure that this is a sustainable program and we can offer our services to more people. And I'm still getting to work with eight members that I've had already for a year now. So I'll be able to see them through the entirety of their time with us. It's a 2-year program, so I'm very, very, very fortunate to be able to keep that relationship with my amazing members.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing all like you have such like your background, your education, and the jobs that you do. It just sounds so like I'm excited because it's a lot of things that I did want to do at one point. I too worked in a social service agency. So I actually did education for early childhood for an early childhood program. So I would go to homes within the south suburbs here in Illinois and basically teach a curriculum and work with the parents. And I would do screenings with the children. And a lot of it, it wasn't just the education. It's like you said, there's so much more that's involved and they had so much more needs that education itself just wasn't enough, that they would still be slipping through cracks, and it's playing like teeter totter, like what's more important, like sometimes
Yeah.
education gets put down, and they wouldn't even have time for the work even, and there's nothing that you could really do. And it was challenging to go into other people's homes and only be able to offer so much when
Mhm.
and then actually knowing what it is that they need.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I found myself in that position over and over where I'm like, I know I have a curriculum to teach. I know this is important, but in the grand scope of things, for this child, is graphing more important than having a meal today? No. Their parents are potentially at risk of deportation. Is teaching them comprehension skills like more important than what's going on at home? Really, no. And so I totally understand the struggle that my students were facing when there was so much going on at home, so much going on in the community, but then we're asking them to sit down, be quiet, and focus on this material that they don't see the value long term yet because they're so in the here and now, naturally, out of a necessity to survive, that they're not thinking about, where this education can take them 10 years down the line. Right? So that's really why I ended up doing the shift to social work, and thankfully, working with families, I still get that connection to working with youth that I've always loved, and now I get to serve their parents as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you for your service and going out there and doing things that most people won't be able to do, and you've been able to maintain it for a while because it's very, very high stress as well. So, do you have a self-care routine that you do?
Yeah, I think for a long time, I had no self-care routine, and what I noticed is that I was only teaching for a few years and was dealing with like a very high level of burnout. I'm a person, just like my nature is to be very giving and to serve others in all aspects of my life. But there becomes a point where you just have nothing left to give. And so part of my backstory is I had my first child, my son, when I was 19. So I was working full time. As a student teacher, and I was going to school full time and then also mothering. And so every aspect of my life like had a claim on it by someone or something. And I hit a wall very quickly where I was just tired and felt like I had nothing else to give, and definitely dealt with a high level of burnout. And so now being in social work, I find that like I just want to say yes to every opportunity. I want to help more. I want to volunteer more. I want to give more. But now I'm being more reflective of I know what the other end of that looks like, and that's burnout, and that's wanting to disengage, and that's wanting to take a break and no longer being able to serve and give. And so, a couple things that I've done is I've become very protective of my downtime, my me time. Now I have a toddler as well, a 2-year old. So obviously, there's some fluctuation to that, but I have a time that I clock out. of life every night. And I'm in bed by 9 o'clock every single night. Do I go to sleep at 9? Definitely not. I like to stay up. That's my mean time. I usually go to sleep more like 11:30 midnight. But I'm protective of this time where people know, like, mom is clocking out. If you need a snack, my oldest one, like, he's 9 now, he can fix himself a snack. Dad is down there if he needs anything, has questions, he wants someone to snuggle with, mom is there for that. But in terms of like getting things for people, doing stuff for people, mom is out. 9. If you want to come spend some quality time with mom, my bed is available, but I am in bed resting by 9 o'clock every night. So am I a boring adult? Definitely, but that's what I've done to protect my mental health. And just like my physical wellness too, because I am so tired by 9 o'clock with everything I'm doing currently.
Yeah, definitely. But that's a good routine, and that's a good thing to set those boundaries. I think one of the things that people don't realize that your children are like energy vampires, and they will take and take and take from you, and you give and give and give, and it's not really helping them, because then they take advantage from other people as well, and their teachers and friends and other parents and things like that, and they learn manipulative ways because you start to cave in. So setting those boundaries of, it's past your bedtime, or we should all be sleeping, and it's not an excessive need. It's more like that ego from like being overtired or overly stimulated and things like that. So that's definitely good.
For sure. And I think part of it is like being part of the Hispanic like culture. We're taught to like work tirelessly. We're known as a people that are incredibly hardworking, and from like dusk till dawn, we're at it, right? And originally that was like a lot of field work, a lot of physical work. And that's something that we're like complimented for as a group, is how incredibly hardworking we are. But there comes a point where like that becomes very toxic to us, is there's an expectation for us. And there actually is a terminology for it called over efforting that you see it a lot in the professional workspace for Latinos, is we're kind of expected to work harder than our white counterparts to kind of achieve the same level of success. And so it's really like ingrained in us to work hard constantly, even when we have, very little energy and are at our capacity. We're almost like expected and pressured to give a little bit more and work a little bit harder still. Um, so there's a point where that mentality becomes very toxic, and I've kind of had to check myself, because I see myself doing that as well too.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the workplace, about not being valued and staying somewhere where you feel used, and you feel that you're not being used for your best ability, rather you're being used for whatever the case may be, to benefit them in some type of way.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think like a great example of that is in giving based professions. We're expected to do 1 to 2 years of internships that are completely unpaid. And so I think that's really unfair that it's expected of professions that are predominantly held by women, to do so much unpaid work. And so I did that as a student teacher. I was working 20 hours a week unpaid for 2 years. Um, and when it came to my master's program and knowing I had to do 2 years of internships again, I just refused to be unpaid for my work. I didn't care if it was a stipend. I didn't care if it was hourly. Hourly, even minimum wage would have been fantastic, right? We all have bills to pay. Like, even though I'm seeking higher education, that doesn't mean my bills pause for that duration of time. And so when I was talking to my field office, they're like, you're going to take yourself out of the running for about 90% of the internships that are offered. And I said, that's okay. I don't want to be in a place that doesn't value my time and doesn't value my effort, because I've been in that before, giving 100% of myself, going above and beyond, being unpaid. And really, it didn't make a difference for me in the end. They didn't value me more because I was giving this extra effort. So I was kind of done with that. And so The nonprofit, the national nonprofit I work at now, Live Chicago, that's where I did my internship, and they provided a stipend in the summer because it was a 1-year internship rather than the 9 months that's required. We became hourly employees in the summer, and that was a big deal to me. Um, it's way too prevalent for people in giving professions to be unpaid for their work while they're in school, and that's just not something that I agree with, especially someone who already has a degree. I am already a professional, and I was already having a salary, and now I have to go back to being unpaid. That just did not sit well with me.
Yeah, and that's what I think people don't understand, that when you settle and you take these little things and not really weigh, I guess this kind of comes into where that spiritualism comes in to play, where you jump on something impulsively because it sounds good or it looks good rather than really feeling it. I actually did a live about this yesterday on Facebook, where I was discussing about how your intuitive action is going to lead you, and that's where your feminine and masculine energy meet. And so when you get that feeling, which is your intuition, and you take that action to align with that, that's how you come together in union within yourself. So basically, when you're settling, you're limiting yourself and staying in this low place without being able to really be valued to where you can grow more and where you're actually being utilized and not being used.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've found that like sticking to my guns and my values have actually benefited me in the long run. So, have going into my second year internship, typically you stay at a agency or a nonprofit or a school just for 1 year. Your second year, you have to interview all over again to find a new position. So again, I was told the same thing from the field office. You have to be careful. Everyone's interviewing at the same time. The good placements are going to be gone if you're only focusing on placements that are paid. And so what I did was I just cold called different nonprofits that weren't even in our database, private practice therapy clinics, cold called them and said, "Hi, my name's Samantha. I'm a second year, master's level student. I'm looking for an internship for next year. I'm looking for, these kind of values and this kind of supervision. And above all, I need a paid placement. I'm a mom of two, and I'm putting it all out there. People who didn't even know me, either I had a connection on LinkedIn or maybe we had a mutual friend, or sometimes I just like look them up in their website and kind of put like, this is what I really love about your mission, this is my experience, I think I would be great here, looking for a paid placement. And so even though even though there are some fantastic placements that a couple years down the line I could have made great money with them, the fact that they weren't paying for my internship work in 2023, like that kind of rubbed me a wrong way. And so what I was able to do is bring in 6 new placements into our field database that were all paid. And so now future students have more options in terms of paid placements. And we just have to create that. That needs to be a standard. And so if we have less and less people that are willing to settle for unpaid, we're going to have more paid opportunities, because the fact of the matter is, like, we're incredibly valuable and we're still a bargain for a $5, $8, $10,000 stipend a year. That is a bargain for a part-time employee for these agencies. And so they need to expand their budget to be mindful of that. But what I ended up doing actually was going to my first year placement with Lyft and telling them, "Hey, I'm interested in full-time employment and I want that to qualify as my internship. So I'm going to go through the field office and tell them, "Hey, I want a full-time job. I want to get a salary and I want that to qualify as my my placement." And thankfully, like, they were able to make it happen. But guess what? I wouldn't have received that and I wouldn't have this opportunity if I never asked. If I was never like adamant and demanded that, um, no one would have handed me that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And that's I'm getting I'm getting a lot of like solar plexus, confidence, motivation. So what do you do to that you wouldn't mind sharing about to have that confidence and that motivation to go ahead and just create that email or to make that call?
Yeah, I think I already went through that period of my life when I like didn't believe in my worth. I had really bad imposter syndrome, especially as like a pregnant Latina who was a freshman in college. I felt a lot of disappointment in myself. I felt disappointment from my family to, get pregnant so young. And I think I already went through like that period of being like ashamed and not confident in myself and feeling like I had to, I don't know, to meet people's disappointment in me. And I hit a point where I was just done. I was done because I started to reflect on everything I've been able to accomplish and be able to do with and without support. I got through my bachelor's degree with high honors with a newborn baby. And I took a moment to give myself props for that. That's huge. A lot of folks struggle to do that even without a baby. And I was making it happen. Um, I just take more time to celebrate my achievements now. And part of that is I want my children to grow up and see a confident mother so that they can have confidence in themselves when, as they get older and reach adulthood as well, because I would have hated for my daughter to think that she was a disappointment, the way that I used to think about myself sometimes. Um, for like really small things, I've always been very critical of myself. And so I've kind of learned to let that go. Big part of it is no one tells you that social work school is basically like 2 to 3 years of therapy. And so learning more about myself and my journey and celebrating how far I've come, that's really helped me just like pat myself on the back where previously I would have never done that.
I definitely commend you for that journey. I didn't finish school yet. I have 5 more classes for my ABA degree, so psychology and applied behavioral analysis, where I studied human behavior, behavior modification, a lot of psychology studies. So I get that. Like I think I diagnosed myself with everything in the DSM-5.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
everything about
for
me.
sure. Yeah.
But it was hard. Like, I don't know if it was just the circumstances, and it always feels like when I'm really under pressure, that's when it seems that everything just always seemed to go wrong, to where there would be like this ex-boyfriend who I was dating, like we would just argue the most when I would have to have like a paper or assignment done. So that's why for me to get as far as I did, like I'm proud of myself because I do have a degree. I have a associate's in psychology, which took me like 10 years to do, but I did it. And
Yes.
whether I might not have the degree, but I definitely have the knowledge and I'm able to obtain it and utilize it and share it. So, I do have the capability, and like you said, it's all about like really applying yourself and making it
Yeah.
happen.
For sure, and success is not limited to education too. I feel like we're kind of taught to do that. I just happen to want to be in a career that typically requires a degree to get to where I want to be. So this was my pathway, but it doesn't have to be the pathway for everyone to reach success. And so like I applaud you for being like, yeah, it took me 10 years, but I got it done. That's okay. I think also there's for just as many people who are just like, you know, education is like too hard for me. Like if you tried it, if that's really what you want to do, if the career you want requires a degree, try, and it's okay to fail and it's okay for it to take a long time. And that's something I have to remind myself as of too, because a master's in social work at my school takes 2 years. It's going to take me 4 years because I'm part time, which makes it 3 years. Plus, I had to take a year of maternity leave when I had my daughter because she threw me like through a whirlwind, and she refused a bottle, and so she was a nursing baby and just like would starve herself, would literally starve herself. So I had to take a year off for her as well. And so it's taken me 4 years, but I'm getting it done. And I applaud myself for that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have much support when you have to do like your studies and homework and
Yeah.
things like that?
Yeah, I would say that my husband and I, just by virtue of being really young parents, have always had to take turns getting school done. And so we always have one person that's so financially supporting while the other one is in school. And so I feel really fortunate. Bec My husband and I, we say all the time that this could have ended really badly for us. You know, being 19 and 21, pregnant, starting a family, even though we were friends for years, we were really only in a relationship for a short period of time before our son came on the scene. Like one of us could have been like a crazy person, very controlling, or our we could have grown apart. We're really fortunate that we've just grown stronger in our relationship and love for one another, and like our desire to establish careers for ourselves and be big names in our chosen fields. So when my husband was in law school, I was teaching and I was the sole breadwinner. And now that I'm working on my master's, there was 2, 3 years of time that I wasn't bringing in any income, and it was my husband who was taking care of everything. And then now, with me being able to work full time and use it as my internship hours, this is the first time ever we've had two incomes. And so I feel really fortunate for that, because the level of support I'm able to provide for myself and my husband is able to provide for me is so much higher than when we had my first child. We couldn't afford childcare. We had like a one of our friends' moms who was like retired was watching our son for like 40 bucks a week. Like that's crazy. Like I feel like there's something, a spiritual being, God, whatever you believe in, something was looking out for us, because we got full-time care for 40 bucks a week from like a family friend. And that was a huge reason why I was able to continue my education. We also qualified for assistance at the time. So I had Medicaid, I had SNAP, I had WIC, and that was able to support us. But I'm just like in a totally different place. And I feel so incredibly blessed that now that my husband was working full time, I was able to focus on my school, focus on my volunteer work, focus on the fellowship that I'm doing with the Obama Foundation, because we have enough income to take care of ourselves. But that wasn't always our story. There was a point where we were really, really struggling. Um, and we had to like borrow money and take out student loans to even survive. So our journey has just changed so much. And again, it goes back to like taking time to be reflective and like applaud ourselves for how much we've been able to accomplish. We no longer need to rely on WIC or Medicaid to survive, and that's such an incredible blessing. But there was a time that we did, so kind of celebrating that journey.
Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing your story. And one of the things that I was gonna ask you, I kind of wanted to get into, but we're gonna have to save this for for like a part 2 episode because we're running out of time. But like, your life seems magical. Like
Oh
you
my
were
gosh.
like divinely protected and divinely guided, like just your story. And I don't know if it's because you're really sticking to that higher version of you, where you're doing your healing, you're doing your work, and you're not letting any distractions come in. And you have your beautiful partner. And I just think your life is wonderful. So thank you very much for letting me and us, the viewers, in and showing what staying true to you and to your values and to yourself, what it brings you.
Yeah, I feel incredibly blessed. There's a lot of times in my life that something could have gone wrong. There was moments early on in our journey where we're like, if we missed one check, like if we didn't receive just one check, we probably would have been out on the street or like trying to, having to move back home and live with our parents or whatever have you, which we did do for 3 years, when our son was born. So um we're really blessed and fortunate that we we're in the situation that we did and we were able to make it. And part of it is like we always had a vision for our lives that we wanted for ourselves and for our son and now for our daughter. And we're really fortunate. And something I did want to talk about was once we're in that place of a basic level of security and just like can just being okay, mostly financially okay. My husband and I feel like we have a societal responsibility to give back. And so that's something big that I feel like I'm in that phase of my life that all I want to do is give back to people and give back to the community. And so that's why I applied to the Obama Scholars Program through the Obama Foundation, was because I wanted to see that systemic change so that for like other teen mothers or mothers in general who are like having some of the hardships that I did at the beginning of my journey, that they had the support that I was fortunate to have through my husband. You know, they might not have a partner that's supporting them, so they have somebody who's rallying behind them, who's supporting them. Um, and so being selected by the Obama Foundation is I'm so blessed that it's giving me the opportunity to make those connections and work on a project throughout this next 9 months that's going to have that systemic change that I always, was aiming for and wanting to do. And so I'm going to be working on a resource database that's specifically tailored for women of color here on the south and west sides of Chicago, and then also wanting to expand my work through coaching with Lift Chicago so we could bring on more members and provide, that coach, somebody to be by your side and support you through the journey, whether that's like wanting to get a higher paying job, increase your credit, leave, a bad situation, if you're tied up in domestic violence, like be that support system for people who don't have a support system. And so I'm really excited and for like this next chapter of my life where I can just focus on giving back to other people.
I'm so excited for you. That just sounds amazing. A lot of us who studied psychology and sociology and social work, we do a lot because we try to find answers, like you said. We learn so much more about us, and it helps us heal and it helps us grow. So with that being said, I'm sure that you yourself had probably went through some things within your childhood, which is the reason why you have such a big heart and why you feel great things, because you've also felt not so great things. So I just want to say again, thank you for the services that you do for the people out here in the communities, and just really wanting to make a better life, not only for you and for your children and legacy, but better lives for the collective, for everybody. And just by
Yeah.
sharing the story, it's helping others to know that we all struggle and we can all get out of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate you letting me talk today and kind of sharing a little bit about what my journey's been like and kind of what I'm hoping my future looks like and some of the work that I'm hoping to do through the Obama Scholars Program. I feel very fortunate for where I'm at currently in life.
That's great. I'm so excited for you. So if you wouldn't mind sharing how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, of course. So primarily for like I'm primarily on LinkedIn, especially I share a ton about the work that I'm doing with Lift Chicago. Every time we're doing like a distribution event or recommending like a scholarship or a resource or a grant that's available. I post a lot on LinkedIn. That's also a great way to kind of see what I'm doing with the Obama Foundation, the Scholars Program. Really fortunate to meet some incredible people doing incredible things, and so I'm always posting on there about those opportunities that we get. And then you can also connect with me via email if you're interested in some volunteer opportunities. I'm also a chair of an auxiliary board for San Miguel School, which you talked about earlier. And so if you're interested in volunteer opportunities, I'll make sure to share my email. And Luna, you can share that with your viewers.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have all of that information in the description box, and sign us up for a volunteer, because we're always down for a good cause. We actually went to the rally yesterday for the lead pipes to get the lead
Yes.
out. Yeah, so it was awesome to be a part of that and just to hear the speakers and to hear and just to feel the fight that's going on so we can have
Yes.
clean drinking water where it's healthy to nourish our bodies and free.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's one of the reason why I love Chicago. We've made Chicago home is how passionate the people are and the kind of like grassroots organizations that are